would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
8:15 a.m., August 6, 1945, 6 miles above the city of Hiroshima, America was preparing to drop the world's first atomic bomb. The most powerful bomb used before this was the Grand Slam. It was an earthquake bomb designed to penetrate underground before detonating, creating seismic waves that could be used to destroy large structures that conventional bombs would struggle with. It had the explosive power of 6 tons of TNT, but mere months later it would be surpassed by Little Boy. They had a force equivalent to 13,000 tons of TNT, several thousands of times stronger than the Grand Slam. Little Boy unleashed a level of destruction never before seen by humanity. Within months it would result in the death of more than 140,000 people, and many more died years later from radiation-related illnesses. A young survivor, inspired by the manga he read in the rubbles of its aftermath, resolved to use the medium to expose the horrors of the war. He would write a memoir on his experience titled, "I Saw It as a Reminder to the Modern Day." It is autobiographical, beginning with a monologue by an adult Keiji Nakazawa commenting on the peaceful lives of the 70s, ignorant of their predecessor's suffering. Following, he would recount his experience. Even before the bomb, wartime life was difficult, particularly for the children who lacked awareness. It was a life of struggle only added to by the bomb. In this recollection, we are exposed to the horrifying effects of the blast of the bomb, so horrifying that one could hope that it didn't really happen, that it was just the imagination of a child, but history is not so kind.
I learned human bodies bake the same way fish do.
I Saw It as a work that lacks any real entertainment value. It was a work meant to educate, and in so doing push the boundaries of the medium, showing that manga can be used to do more than mindlessly entertain.
I'm sure there is more you want to say.
This work left a strong impression on Nakazawa's editor, who urged him to create a longer serial based on this work. It culminated in the widely popular Barefoot Gen would begin publication in Weekly Shonen Jump in 1973 and finish publication in 1987. It was Nakazawa's most commercially successful work, selling over 10 million copies. It would result in several spin-offs, including 3 live-action films, a stage play, a TV drama, and 2 anime films. The 1983 film was produced by Studio Madhouse and directed by Mori Masaki. Interestingly, Masaki began his career as an animator in 1963 at Mushi Productions, the studio creator of Astro Boy and father of manga Osamu Tezuka. Manga was the only means of entertainment in a post-Little Boy Hiroshima, and Tezuka's manga New Treasure Island had led to Nakazawa pursuing manga. Masaki had worked on Astro Boy, Kimba the Lion, amongst other works, before leaving the studio in 1968 and later pursuing a career as a mangaka. In 1979, he returned to anime and worked at Studio Madhouse, where he would later take on the role of a director of his project. Excluding the opening monologue, both Gen and I Saw It begin with the air raid scene. It is the first of many parallels that exist between the two.
I'm sure there is more you want to say.
Nakazawa's response to his editor's earlier request was to reimagine the haunting experiences that populated his childhood, but this time as narrative. The narrative of Barefoot Gen begins with a history of the war.
昭和16年12月、日本本土に戦線を絞り、アメリカ軍第20爆撃兵団29の大艦隊により人類が初めて体験する。
It introduces the turbulence and hardship of the times before switching gears to focus on a young family. These initial moments carry an air of the mundane, focusing on the daily rhythms of family such as petty sibling rivalries and childish shenanigans. It is the calm before the bomb. Wholesome moments of the mundane are interrupted by unscheduled air raids, a subtle reminder of the instability that this happiness sits on. Further pursuing narrative, Gen uses its mother figure as the central emotional core of the story. This was an idea repurposed from I Saw It, where Nakazawa ground the immense tragedy of the bomb in his mother's suffering.
There wasn't a single day that my mother did not suffer.
Gen builds on this. Even from before the disaster, the pregnant Nakaoka mother is a sign of hope in times of suffering. Maintaining her health amid military rations and scarce resources is a means of solidarity for the family. However, it is a goal that is never achieved. At 8:15 a.m. on August 6, 1945, that fleeting moment of happiness would come to an end. The family that so much time had been spent developing is thrown into disarray. There's no avoiding the suffering of the citizens, nor the painful deaths of the Nakooka members.
There wasn't a single day that my mother did not suffer.
The remaining half of Barefoot Gen rather literally deals with the fallout of the bomb. As son and mother attempt to make ends meet amidst the persistent effects of the bomb, the struggle to survive would continue into. With the loss of their family, Gen and his mother struggle through poverty. Days are spent scheming how to make some money while his mother works in the factories. Though the war has ended, the struggle to survive continues. In contrast to I Saw It, which continued its story decades into the future, Gen 2 exclusively takes place 3 years after the first film. As Gen 2 continued, it would diverge more and more from the outline of I Saw It, focusing more on the children of this time, leading up to the introduction of a gang of orphans. With no family, these children are forced to provide for themselves. They terrorize the streets of Hiroshima, but not without consequence. Their misplaced maturity and desperate attempts to make a living characterize the tragedy of this time. At first at odds, they would later become a means of camaraderie for Gen and a means of support as he seeks to protect his ailing mother suffering from the effects of radiation sickness. Her suffering a similitude of Japan. Beginning with I Saw It, Keiji Nakazawa set out to use his lived experience to tell a powerful story. He closes I Saw It on a vengeful manifesto, to use comics to show the horrors of the bomb and crimes of those who unleashed it. It was a work that was written during the nuclear arms race that spanned from World War II to the late 90s, which resulted in the production of nuclear bombs several orders of magnitude stronger than Little Boy. In a comment made in a later release of I Saw It, Nakazawa would impress that
Now, more than ever, people must take a hard look at the fact about those first primitive weapons used on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Because they just didn't look like human beings. Clothes were tattered, and the flesh and skin hanging from their bones.
There was a man, I think he was a man, unrecognizably burned, scarred, and marred. You can't tell it, but I knew that was a man. He said to soldiers who's clutching me in his arm, he said, "Water, water, please, water." And the soldier just...
I thought, boy, I'm glad that they gave it to me. I can do it, and I will do it. And by doing so, I might take some lives, but I'll save many more. That's the thought that ruled me all the way through. And I've been asked directly, would you do it again?